Welcome to the Pre-Established Creative Podcast, a podcast in which myself, Connor Burr, and my girlfriend Matisse Finson talk about our plight to become better creative people. So join us each week as we talk about that. Thank you.
Okay, welcome back to our second episode.
Hello.
This is a bit exciting.
Yes.
Feedback from last episode was that we are too raw, too real. It makes people feel too nervous and sad. We have to be more positive. So that's the aim of this one. More confidence, more positivity.
Thank you to our two listeners, Rachel and David. Thank you.
Thank you. Couldn't do it without you. Special shout outs. Okay, so where do you want to start with this one, Matisse? Last week we said that we would be doing, we listed some things that we wanted to do this week and we would reflect on them. Yeah. So I guess the first question, how do you feel you went? What were your things that you said you were going to do last week and how do you feel you went with them?
I think I went pretty well with them. I wanted to work on my second draft of the piece I want to submit to Book Riot, the online publication, which I did do, but in hindsight I feel like I didn't do a very good job of it, if that makes sense. I returned to the piece, but I still feel like there's a lot of work to do to it.
Okay.
So I feel like on one hand, good on me for doing it, but at the same time, I know I probably could have done better, but I focused my attention elsewhere.
Yeah.
Which...
Okay, well then where did you focus your attention elsewhere?
Well, I mean, they haven't necessarily been bad places I've been focusing on. I've been trying to post on my blog every second day, even though it only takes half an hour to an hour. But and then there's another piece that I started writing a few weeks ago that I'm more interested in than the piece I want to submit for online publication.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
that's kind of funny.
It's I know it's almost like this thing for online publication is becoming a chore that I don't necessarily want to return to.
Right, okay.
Whereas I want to now pursue stuff that's not necessarily work related, but more just creatively focused, I guess.
Yeah. That's good.
Well, yeah, but I also, one of my goals is to just submit a piece for online publication. So I feel like if I want to get to the point of submission, then I actually have to work on this thing that I need to submit.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I follow you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's just interesting because I feel like I had a similar week in that I set out to do creative things. I set out to record more music.
Yeah.
Or some kind of music. And I haven't done that. But I don't feel like I've failed in being creative this week. So rather than recording by myself in my room with my own software, I went round to Fraser's house and we spent a good afternoon making a spaghetti western thing. And I feel like that was still a pretty valuable creative experience.
Sorry, do all of our listeners know what spaghetti western is? Because I only just discovered what it was this week. I thought it was a made-up thing.
So spaghetti western was a style of western films in the 1960s that were made predominantly in south of Spain and Italy due to the fact that it was much cheaper to make them over there than it was in Central America. Because of the limited budget, this led the overall film to have a kind of quality that was made out of necessity, including the music. So instead of having a full orchestra for the soundtrack, films like these only really had one guitar and several kind of sound effects from the movie itself, leading it to be a really kind of a staple genre that came out of surf rock, but, was distinctly its own. So me and Fraser, we really wanted to draw from this and make it our own. There's a little piece for the listeners there.
Nice.
But it was fucking fire, to be honest. It was really, really good in that I felt like the creative juices were flowing. We were having a lot of fun doing it. And then after we kind of had our jam session, we had somewhat of a song down, we had to go into Fraser's room and actually start recording it. And, there were some things say for example, like when we're recording some of the chords and having to just play the same chords again and again and again and again, like my fingers started really hurting, and you can hear me fucking up. You know, that the chords don't sound consistently the same every time I strum them because my fingers are getting sore.
Yeah.
And so there are a few creative things like that that you wouldn't actually think about when you're trying to start recording music, say.
Yeah.
That actually impact it a lot. I think though the biggest thing that I had this week that I think I was really proud of myself for kind of doing, I suppose, in a creative sense, was I found there were quite a few times this week where I could feel myself making excuses. You know, for example, making excuses from being vulnerable, I suppose, or trying to like protect myself when I was feeling vulnerable. Like, first example was showing people the episode 1 of the podcast, really, which admittedly is complete trash, is very bad, but
very bad,
bad, not enjoyable. But it's important, you know. I like, for example, when I was showing, shout out to listener number 2, David. When I was showing him, I felt like I should hold off until we recorded this episode when it was a bit more polished, and then I could show him that. But then I kind of realized halfway through that that is me making an excuse not to just be like, this is where I'm at right now. And there are a couple of other times that happened, and I think that's kind of what I'm most proud of this week for myself creatively, is kind of letting myself be vulnerable in the sense of not having to hide behind, oh yeah, it's shit, but haha, it's crack up.
Yeah.
Or it's just like a first draft, they'll be better on second time or something, you know? Yeah, so that's what I feel like I did quite well.
Like a similar experience with that this week, except I didn't actually give out the information. I went for a walk with a good friend of mine, well, a new friend of mine, really. Been working with her for a while. And she is a poet, and she does a bit of writing as well, and blogging. And we were talking about it, and she offered to be a reader of my blog, and I said it wasn't ready yet, and that I don't really know what I'm doing with it yet. And when I do know what I'm doing with it, then I'll let her know, and then I'll give it to her, which I feel like is like a reasonable response. But I feel like I wouldn't actually be affected by having a reader. Like I think I'm at the point now that like if someone were to be reading my blog, it wouldn't change what I'm writing. Like I wouldn't be like trying to censor myself or like appear more like put together than I am.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I wouldn't be putting more pressure on myself to be more polished or be like more creative and or inspiring or whatever, just because I feel like I'm a bit more confident in just what I'm doing at the moment. I don't know. Yeah,
well, I mean, no, I fully agree with that. In the sense of, like, for example, when David said today, like, you know, you be more positive kind of thing. Like, I can even feel it now, like, trying to resist this urge to be like, whoa, you're back with Connor and Matisse, and it's the Wacky AM show, ha ha ha. Like, still trying to keep somewhat of a sense of, like, realism, while also taking on his advice of being a bit more, like, positive and not so terrified and nervous. Yeah, it's tricky, to be like, I actually do want to make this a entertaining piece, and I want people to enjoy it, and I want to be like proud of it, to be like I've worked hard on it. But I think I'm definitely not there yet.
No.
And it's hard, and I feel like maybe with your blog as well. Like, you know where you want it to go, but you're not there yet, and you want to show people when you're at that nice stage. That's when you'd be proud of it. But it's still really important to show people at this stage where it's not good. If anything, well, I feel like myself at least, if anything, to kind of get over that hurdle of showing people your work and feeling exposed and vulnerable.
I don't actually know where I want my blog to go. Like, I have no idea. That's why I'm actually writing just a piece every second day at the moment, is because that's what I've got to hold on to, is that I have to post every second day.
Yeah.
Because that means I'm writing every second day. I know eventually I'll figure out where I want it to go, I have some ideas, but like I have nothing set in stone at all, apart from the fact that I need to be writing every second day.
Yeah.
So I kind of disagree with what you're saying, but then I also agree with like showing people it when it's kind of shit. So
Sucks.
yeah. So you can just kind of, I don't know, be a bit maybe more honest about like the stage you're at in your like creative process, you know?
Yeah.
And like it can put like a little bit less pressure on like other people. Say for example, if we did have listeners or I did have readers,
Can you imagine?
Yeah, but if I did have readers as well, like, you know, if people are reading you, like they're not going to be wanting to read you when you're just like crystal perfect, you know? It's like, because that puts pressure on other people to be that way when they start out something. So it's like you kind of have to let people see you being a bit shit, because it means other people are okay with being a bit shit as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it was even in the somewhat limited feedback we received for episode 1 was like, I could feel how nervous you were. I could feel how vulnerable you were.
Yeah.
And that's like important to show people when you are really vulnerable, because it does take pressure off them to give you like, you know, constructive criticism or not be too mean or anything, just to be like, oh, this is me, hello. I don't know, I get what you mean when it takes off a bit of pressure off the audience.
It's kind of fitting that like our first episode was just like us being like, or me anyway, being like, yeah, I like kind of think this, but I'm really awkward about this microphone being in front of me.
Yeah.
And I can't quite articulate what I want to say because I feel like people are listening to me. You know, it's like, I don't know, that's kind of sweet that that's the first episode.
Yeah, I feel that.
Like,
because I even feel now I'm not that disturbed by the microphone anymore. I had put a sock over it, which is actually helping quite a lot. But
I'm kind of disturbed by it a little bit. But I'm getting there.
You're
I'm getting there.
Which is good. Yeah. Now, I do think it was very scary to record that first episode, and it was very scary to actually put it up, and then it was also very scary to have to then tell people that I put it up and show them the link, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't tell anyone.
Yeah.
But
well, okay, so maybe what I wanted to segue, when you say you didn't tell anyone, what we talked about extensively after episode 1, I think we talked for like 3 hours or something after episode 1, after doing 15 minutes of a podcast, we were like, okay, I've got nothing else to say, and then blah, 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 for 3 hours. You talked about how, especially in your blog post, it's your understanding of this podcast has changed from being like a documentation to like actually a part of your creative process.
Yeah.
Do you just want to talk a bit more about like that kind of realization you came to and something along those lines?
Yeah, well, I wrote a blog post today, and I guess I'll put the link in the bio.
Fuck yeah.
And it was about my struggle with articulation, which is probably obvious if you're listening to this, but I am trying to get better at it. Yeah, and basically it's just describes how ever since like second year university I just noticed myself not being able to articulate myself well and not being confident in what I'm saying, so then questioning what I'm saying and never really ending sentences like affirmatively, kind of being like, but I don't know, maybe, I don't really know, like it just end sentences that way.
Yeah.
So I feel like the more I do creative things, the more opportunities there are to talk about creative things and to talk about myself and to have more confidence in how I'm presenting myself. And then I feel like the podcast does more than just document in that sense, because it means I actually have to speak and I have to learn how to articulate what I'm saying, and I have to learn how to be confident in what I'm saying, and then I have to listen to myself and be confronted with how I actually sound. And listening back on last week's episode, I just wanted to like hide. I hated it.
Did you actually listen to last week's episode?
No, you remember you played it. You played it in bed.
I haven't listened to the full thing though, because I'm still too nervous to actually have to confront that.
But even though that little snippet we listened to, maybe like 5 minutes,
it's pretty rough.
was enough for me just to be like, oh wow, I sound like that. And I realised that it's not the fact that I can't get a sentence out. It's the fact that I don't have confidence in what I'm saying, and I don't sound like I have confidence in what I'm saying. That makes me sound so like childish and inarticulate. I don't know the right word, but so basically now I want to work on my confidence in what I'm saying and being confident in how I'm presenting myself, rather than just being like, oh, I need to articulate my words well. So I just went to go do it again. So
that's
finish my
good.
sentence, and I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know.
I think my problem is I don't know how to end. I never know how to just like put a full stop in.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
End. So in my writing as well, I always struggle with the ending.
And we even talked about how weird it, coming to this realization that, like, especially when you're talking about how being articulate you need to be, it's like, especially because everything you say here that's the final record, right? Like, you're not going to get a chance to, this is not a draft and then you get to redo it. It's the final. Yeah. And it's like, is that, how much do you try to get better at articulating your thoughts? Because are you then trying to put it on for this podcast, or is it still genuine? Like,
true.
It's tricky, and it's. Oh, sorry. I find that a bit tricky. Like, I can see myself trying to resist this urge to lean into making like an entertaining podcast and still trying to talk openly, just for the fact of like, this is all people are going to be hearing of me.
Yeah. So
I want to make it enjoyable, but then also like I want to be true to my kind of feeling of the moment, I suppose.
Sorry.
You're going to sneeze.
I needed to sneeze.
Yeah, make it. Well, okay, if you're going to sneeze, I'll try and edit it out, because that's what I want to segue into. What are we going to be doing this week? And my thing, I'm going to try and edit this episode. I'm going to record some intro music.
But how much are you going to edit of it? I thought this was going to be largely...
I needed to. Well, I mean, I want to make some music for it, and then I want to have like intro music, and then be like, all right, thanks for listening, guys, and then have outro music.
Oh, okay.
Whoa.
I thought you meant you wanted to like, okay, let's try that sentence again. And
No,
I was
fuck
like,
that. No.
how dare you? I just opened up to you about using this as a tool for better articulation.
No. Don't worry, I would never do it to you.
Yeah.
So yes, my things for this week is edit the podcast, make a bit more music for intro and outro music. Yeah. I've got to post this on Wednesday, so it's Tuesday today. I have to post this tomorrow, which means maybe tonight or tomorrow night I have to make that music and post it. And I think I'm going to have to come to terms with possibly having a late night or two to get that done. Well, not hiding behind an excuse of I'm tired.
Yeah.
You're not putting it off for another night just because I'm tired. Like trying to be straight up and be like, oh, I have to get this done because I told myself I would get it done. I also want to work more on the Spaghetti Western song. Maybe try and write some music, write some lyrics, sorry. Yeah. Maybe hang out with Fraser again and try and get more of that. Yeah. What are you going to be doing this week?
I don't know. I haven't actually thought about this. I probably should have.
That's all right.
I guess going off what happened last week, I want to make this piece for submission a priority, like an actual priority. But it's hard when you're being distracted by other things that are actually beneficial for you and you're interested in, you know?
Absolutely.
It's like, at what point does that become a bad thing? Because I can't quite see it as a bad thing yet. The only reason I see it as a bad thing is maybe like, if I say this now, like I want to make it a priority, and then I don't, then it's like, well, it's a bad
You
thing
failed.
because I hadn't held myself accountable.
Yeah.
You know? So I guess this can be a tool for that.
But I mean, like, at the same time, you're not obligated to actually meet that every week. Because I definitely feel that in terms of, I was saying, I want to make music. Last week I was like, I want to make music. And then this week I did not do that. But I don't feel like I've failed. Like, I do feel like I've progressed in a sense that I've made some good strides.
I just feel like if I say I'm going to do something and I don't do it, then that means next week I didn't do it last week. So, and nothing happened. Or I didn't do it last night and nothing happened. You know what I mean? Like, it just, like, lends itself to more excuses. I actually wrote about that in my other blog post this week.
Link in the bio.
There was, so I wanted to post every second day, and it fell on a Sunday, which is my big shift at work. I work 10 hours in hospitality, and it's very tiring, very draining. And yeah, on Sunday night after work, I had to come home and write a blog post. And even though it wasn't like the best one, even though I didn't really edit it at all, it was very small, I still wrote it, and it was about on being too tired to write. And one thing I quickly jotted down in that post was, it's okay that if I don't, like, I do have a good reason for not doing that blog post, because it actually is a big day of work for me. But if I didn't, then it would mean that kind of attitude would like follow myself throughout the week, basically. So I could be like, oh, well, you know, tomorrow I'm hanging out with this person and I want to go to drawing classes and I want to do this, so I'm actually too busy to do that piece, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, I just need to be kind of like strict with myself.
Yeah.
So I feel like making, if I say it here, it's a priority. It has to be a priority.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or else it will never be one.
That's fair. Okay, well, that'll be interesting to see then if the same thing happens to you this week that happened last week.
Yeah.
Where you didn't necessarily fail, just you kind of realised that your priorities were a bit different.
Yeah.
Maybe. Because, like I said, I feel like that happened with me, but I don't feel like I failed. I feel like I did something that actually I couldn't have planned for. Like overcoming like self-doubt and kind of, well, not overcoming, but like being able to identify when I'm self-sabotaging.
Yeah.
I didn't think you can't plan for that. You can't be like, I will get better at not self-sabotaging. So I'm happy that I did that. But yeah, I do feel a bit quietly guilty that I said on the podcast that I would do music and I did not. So I feel like if I'm going to say, when you're listening to this, you'll have outro music and intro music, then I need to do it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it's like, I guess like part of the documentation is being like, well, I didn't actually stick to this in the way I wanted to.
Yeah.
You know, and kind of being like, I mean, it's unrealistic for us to be like, I did this week. I did it. Yeah. Like, I am the best version of myself straight off the bat.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
No.
Yeah.
No, I think that's kind of what I'm excited for.
Yeah.
As being, even when we said before how, like, looking back on it was like, oh, we're so nervous. That's quite nice to look back on that and to reflect on.
Yeah.
So it'll be good to keep doing that continually.
Because I actually have a point that I want to submit this. I have to write 2 bits of writing for this site. At the moment, I've only got 1 draft that I'm not even happy with, really. But I have to write 2 basically complete pieces of writing, ready to go, by between mid-June and end of June, because their reading period's in July. So that gives me about a month to finish 2 pieces, which is kind of terrifying. I know I can do it, but I don't know.
I mean,
I haven't thought out that thought properly.
Yeah, I'm still not articulate about that thought yet.
Yeah, I have to mull that one over.
Yeah,
I'll be back.
I'm sure there'll come a point where you're just like, it's as good as it can get. Well, I could add more to this, but I just need to get something out there.
Yeah. Well, that's why I made the goal submission of, like, to submit a piece of work, not to be published by this time, because I know it's unrealistic to... I mean, I've never submitted anything before, and it's unrealistic to be like, I want to be published by the end of this year. Because it's like, well, you know, I have no idea if my work's, like, ready for publishing or the right thing for the site, or I might be like, it's perfect for the site, but my own bias is just, like, getting in the way or whatever, you know?
Yeah,
so,
exactly, yeah.
I don't know. I just want to be able to actually let something go and then work on the next 2 pieces after that kind of thing. In my head, that makes sense to me anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think you can do it. Gambare. Well, should we wrap up there then?
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for listening. Shout out to Rachel and David, 2 subscribers. Look forward to joining you next week.
Has she subscribed?
I think Rachel has, yeah.
Oh, nice.
David has. Did you know, sidebar, David fucking 4 years ago posted a clip of, like, an Eric Andre show. Do you know that guy? He's like a comedian.
I've heard of Eric
He's got a
Andre.
comedian. He's got like a TV show. He posted like a 40-second video, and it's got 1 million views.
What?
I know, and he's been like, yo, you should put a link in your podcast to Matisse's bio. It's like, you should put a link in your 1 million+ views video to Matisse's bio. It'd blow up.
Wow.
Damn.
But we don't want to blow up. Not yet.
Not yet. All right, David, hold off on that one. But next week, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you for listening. Bye, guys.
Goodbye.
And as always, this episode is sponsored by Audible. Get
What is with you with this Audible sponsorship?
10% off. All right. Bye.